Um, I think it's fairly safe to say that this has been a pretty busy year. We've had a fair amount to do, and I was just sort of settling in last summer, and I finally could figure out what was mine to do, and so I was doing fine, and it was August, and I was pretty much knew the rhythm, and someone came in, and I'm not sure whether it was Sarah or Alan, and they said, you know, we have to prune the palm trees. Now, it's fairly safe, I can say, that for all the courses I've taken and all the study I've done and all the degrees I have, no one ever talked to me about pruning palm trees. Not a clue. So I thought, okay, how hard can this be? We've got lots of palm trees. People do it all the time. I see them out there up and down the street. It's all good. Call some companies. They'll come and give us quotes. The board wants 3 quotes on everything. Well, first eye-opener was only 2 companies would come, not 3. First company came and gave us a quote of $5,000 to prune 5 palm trees. So I figured, I don't think so. That's probably not going to answer. So we get the second company to come out. The second company comes out, takes about 5 minutes, looks around, doesn't climb a tree, doesn't do anything but look up, look down, and say, I'm sorry, we can't prune those palm trees. You've got owls. Okay, that wasn't covered in Palm Tree 101, I can tell you that for sure. So then the big discussion starts about the owls. What do we do about the owls? Can we get in there and get them pruned? Oh, and the company says, and by the way, you know, I'm not sure when you can prune those palm trees. So not knowing what better to do, I went to Mariana Reiser, who works for WildCare, or was, at least worked at WildCare, and she's a member of the community, and she said, well, I'll check on it, but I'm not sure. The next week she comes back and she said, well, we're toast. Not only are owls federally protected, you can't do anything until September 1st. Of the next year. So then we talked some more, and it seems that not only have the owls started to think about what they're going to do in the palm trees, and they've started to think about mating, and they've started to think about nesting, then we get them to have the babies, and then they hatch the eggs, and then they teach the little ones to fly and to hunt, and sure enough, you can't prune the palm trees until September 1st of 2019. So there we are. We're headed into winter, palm fronds fall. They're out there. We have many discussions about what we're going to do about the palm trees, what we're going to do about the owls, and we're going no place. So I knew this talk was coming up, and originally this talk was meant to be last week, which was the Sunday before Valentine's Day. But because we had interplay here last week, I decided it would fit. I mean, we're all still thinking about love, right? And Valentine's Day and all that sort of thing. And I know that for some of us, Valentine's Day is this wonderful thing about cards and flowers and chocolate and love in the marketing heaven of Valentine's Day. And then for others of us, it means railing against the cards, the flowers, the Valentine's Day, except for possibly the chocolate, which might be nice for me. No matter how we choose to celebrate the 14th of February, and this is where we come back to our owls, we can all take comfort in knowing that for some animals, Valentine's Day is taken way more seriously by them than it is by us. For in the case of our owls, they mate for life, and they become very emotionally attached to their partner. And did I mention that the owls also become emotionally attached to their location? So now if we go out and we look up at the palm trees just right, we can often see both owls sitting there And I like to think that they're cuddling with each other. Babies in the nest. It has a sort of charm to it. And they'll likely have 4 to 6 babies, and we'll see mom and dad teaching them how to fly and how to hunt. And like I said, we can't do a thing about the palm trees until September 1st. Now, I mention all of this because this morning's topic is Love Makes the World Go Round. And there are many, many different kinds of love. The first is the kind of love we just talked about with the owls. This kind of love is a sort of animal instinct, and I know that we've all had it, that sense of being drawn to someone or something without thinking it through too hard, without intellectualizing it, just that draw to someone else, our children, our pets, maybe our first love. We just feel it. Doesn't make sense. It isn't something that you think through. We may follow through on it. We may not follow through on it. But we most likely will never forget it. And there's an author who writes romance books for young adults whose name is Jean House. And Miss House tells us that love doesn't always make sense, either to the persons in it or to the people around them. The falling can be an emotional, chaotic whirlwind. The landing can be jarring and eye-opening. But if people are really in love, there's nothing in this world that can overcome it. Even if they can't be together, love doesn't cease. So that's one kind of love, this strong, draw animal. Then there's another kind of love, and I'm calling this the biblical love. From the time I was little, I was taught the phrase from Corinthians, love is patient, love is kind. It does not envy, it does not boast, it is not proud, it is not rude, it is not self-seeking, it is not easily angered, it keeps no record of wrong. Love does not delight in evil, but rejoices in truth. It always protects, trusts, hopes, perseveres. Love never faileth. 1 Corinthians 13, and that quote is from the Apostle Paul, who was writing to the Christian community in Corinth, about 50 CE or so. And Corinth was a place of lots of things going on. There were harbors and shipping and trade, and somehow the community was in a furor. There was always something kind of rocking around about Corinth. Biblical scholars don't seem to really know why. It seemed to just be a kind of a odd collection. It might have been the temple to Aphrodite that's just outside of town. And there were temple prostitutes who worked there, who were very professional women who had free run of the town. And the good Judeo-Christian wives weren't so happy about the fact that their husbands, kind of went up the hill to the temple every now and again. So there was sort of this disruption, and there was disruption between Jews and Christians on some dietary restrictions, and so they were also disrupted, and Paul was writing back to them to say, calm down. Love never faileth. Be peaceful. Well, one of the major guidelines for marriages to this day is to quote this piece. How many weddings or commitment ceremonies or things have we been to where everything starts out with this thing from Corinth? All right? And I want to go back and go through it for just a minute to just talk about it for a second. Love is patient. Okay? We can probably do that. Patience isn't easy, but we can be patient. Love is kind. All right? Most of us are sort of inherently kind. We can do kind. Love does not envy. That gets a little harder. All right? Envy, envy's hard because somebody has something, you size yourself up to someone else. Envy. Love doesn't envy, and it does not boast. It doesn't brag. It isn't proud. Well, now you're beginning to get onto some kind of thin ice. Who amongst us isn't proud? Who amongst us doesn't think, well, now wait a minute, I can do that? Love is not self-seeking. It is not easily angered. Uh-oh. We're really in trouble now. Not easily angered. I don't know about you, but Richard and I periodically have clear and open exchanges of views. So there's love. Not easily angered. I don't know. It keeps no record of wrong. Ah! Just who are we kidding here? I don't know about you, but I'm taking names and I got a list. Keeps no record of wrong. Love does not delight in evil. Rejoices with truth. All right, who amongst us hasn't been just a little bit tempted to be evil now and then? Maybe just miss the mark just a little. Nobody will notice. Love always protects, always trusts, always hopes, always perseveres. Love never faileth. Well, I'm here to argue that that kind of love is an almost impossible standard to live up to. It's right there in the ceremony. It's a dandy for the ceremony, and it looks really good. But down the road, as you're living it and as you're doing it, I wonder if all these years and for all this time, so many people have had almost an unreal expectation of what love is. But there it is. It's in the Bible. It's a biblical kind of love. A very, very difficult standard. And then there is the kind of love that is the metaphysical interpretation of love. And this one is more why we're here today. For metaphysics tells us that this kind of love, love with a capital L, is that inner quality in each of us that joins and binds together the universe and everything in it. That's the energy in the room right now that we all are creating, that we all share, that is binding each and every one of us together, right here, right now, in this place. Love is the energy that guides each of us to our higher good. But there are a few things that we need to remember about divine love. First of all, divine love is impersonal. We tend to, every time we hear the word love, get into the ooey gooey part. We tend to think that love is only teddy bears and rainbows and things like that. Divine love is impersonal. It loves for the sake of loving and is not concerned with who or what it loves. And that's hard, because we tend to think, I'll only love you if you are deserving. I'll only love you if love has that sort of marketed way of being. But love is not concerned with the return of that love. Love, divine love, is not based on being loved back. I'll love you if you'll love me. That isn't divine love. It's impersonal, and it is not based on loving back. Love, divine love, is that inner quality in each of us that sees good everywhere and in everyone. And that sounds easy enough, but here's the tricky part. For there is another side of loving, and that's the thinking side. For whatever we are focusing on or attracting ourselves to is a sort of loving. We tend to always think that it's romantic love, but it's not. It's whatever we are focusing on, whatever we are attracting ourselves to. So if we are angry at something or someone, and we can't think of anything else except how angry we are at that something or someone, that is a sort of loving. It's a way of attracting ourselves to and focusing on the very thing that is driving us crazy. So remember, love, divine love, is neutral. It focuses on whatever or whoever we are focusing on. Because if we're thinking of something in a very strong and powerful, and dare I say, sometimes loud way, the power of love, the power of divine love, then tries to harmonize it and unify whatever it can to match the anger that we ourselves are generating. Right? I know it's complicated. I get that. I understand it. But this is the source of this thing that we all call the law of mind action. All right? The power of love tries to harmonize the energy that we ourselves are generating. So put it simply, is whatever we are holding in mind, we are attracting to ourselves. We say in Principle 3 went out of my brain, divine love through me. Whatever I think as I am creating. Whatever we think about, we create. And I tell you to be very, very careful what we pray for. My grandmother used to tell me that. Be careful what you pray for. Don't pray for patience, because then the universe will send you some chances to practice. Be very careful. Whatever we think about, we attract to ourselves. So it's a different kind of loving. It's not the typical romantic love. It's an impersonal, divine love that harmonizes all that we are. And so in conclusion, let's come back to my owls. Actually, they're not my owls, they're our owls. Because it's not the owls that are the problem. It's the fact that we cannot prune the palm trees, all right? The fronds are falling. Kids from the school can't play on the grassy area because the fronds might fall, might hurt somebody. We spend a lot of time and we think about the owls. Or Sunday morning, what are we going to do with people out there for coffee hour and the fronds might fall and we can't be on the grass at the barbecue, and what are we going to do? What are we going to do? So, well, maybe we can put up shade structures so fronds won't fall. And we talk and we think some more about the owls. But here's the thing. The more that we think about it, and the more that we talk about it, the more we get of it. All right? I started out last fall going out the back door talking to one owl. All right? There's an owl out there, and he'd be going hoot, hoot. Or maybe she was going hoot, hoot. I'm not sure. But the fact is, I would say, you know, Heidi tells me we have an owl box. It's a nice owl box. You'll love living up in our owl box. Hoot, hoot, went my owl. And I thought maybe I'd been heard. Okay, the next time I went out, I said, did you remember about the owl box? And the owl out here is going hoot, hoot. And the next thing I know, in the palm tree, there's an answering hoot, hoot. There are now two owls, I'm absolutely certain, and they're talking to one another. So I go home and I'm thinking more about the owls. I mean, after all, my owl brought home a lady friend, right? So now there are two. They could have lived in the owl box, but they didn't. They moved into the palm tree, and when you look out there, you can see two owls in the palm tree if you catch it just right. And guess what? They're going to have 4 to 6 babies. So now I have 8 owls in the palm tree. Trust me, the law of mind action, what you think about grows. What you talk about, the universe is harmonizing. It's constantly working at pulling together all that we are. Owls are traditionally symbols of wisdom. So let us imagine that we are neither doves nor hawks, but owls. And we, as owls, are vigilant when others are resting. Owls mate for life. Owls locate for life. The owls have selected us, and we love them. And so it is. Amen.